All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Soutter, and with me today is Vox. Vox, how are you?
I'm doing good.
And what?
Better than most, I think. Happy, healthy, above
And
ground.
let me bring out Maute here because I don't normally like he's not the guest. He's like a third co-host today. So here he is. Don't give me that, Maute. Maute, welcome, Maute. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, Nick.
Good.
And how about yourself?
I'm doing good. And so we have a lot of people in the live chat already. Thank you all for joining us. So this is In Time. If you're just joining us for the first time, you know what? Please like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. We're here to talk about... So one thing we are not here to talk about. We just want to... So this is a news and education program, and there hasn't been any other news today, because if there were, that would mean we dropped the ball on something, and we don't drop the ball on anything, so nothing else has been going on today. That is just, I try not to like make executive like universal decisions and just say that, but that is, I have said that, and we're all on board, right? We're good?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, there is absolutely nothing that is occurring anywhere, like possibly in the state of Georgia, that we may have forgotten about. You know,
I love me
that
some
could
peach
happen.
pie. Talking about a peach pie eating contest?
Yeah, that's it. Peach pie.
yeah,
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah. No, nothing in Georgia. Nothing else is going on today. We didn't miss anything. Moving forward, we had this conversation going on, and Vox was like, I think we missed something. I said, we didn't miss anything. And Maute was just, what are we talking about exactly? He's a team player.
I see.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Just remember, if you like what's going on here, even if we did possibly, maybe, it could, in some possible world, forget something. Go ahead and like and subscribe anyway, because, to err is to be godlike, I think.
I like that. Well, then
Is that how
I'm
that
probably...
works?
I'm one of the
I think
godliest
so,
people you've ever met by that definition.
Godlike. Every Christian I know thinks that. They say that all the time.
Oh, dear Lord. I like this definition. I'm going to put this up on my wall. You're going to see that on the back there next time we broadcast.
Good. That does not make any damn sense.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay, so there was one little thing, and Vox is making a big deal about it because she just likes to, she's drama. But there is control of the U.S. government, which is going to be determined, I think, in large part by control of the Senate, will be determined by 2 Senate seats. And it turns out that the runoff for those seats happens to be today, I don't, okay, whatever, Vox, fine.
Just a little housekeeping, just a little housekeeping, it's just one of those things. Sometimes you got to do it, right? You got to buy milk, you got to get bread, dog needs to be fed.
So I think, unfortunately, I think it's probably going to go to the Republicans. We may hit that as a breaking news if it's something. I don't think it's going to be. Well, we'll probably mention it on our Discord. We'll drop a link to our Discord in a few minutes. But if you want to come in and talk news, politics, anything like that, come hit our Discord. Maute, Vox, and myself are often on the Discord. You're going to find lots of different people on our Discord.
Indeed.
We're talking about different stuff. It's a lot of fun. So go down there, hang out.
People much smarter than us. People much
yes.
smarter than us are on the Discord.
Which is unfortunately easier to do than any of us would like to give, would like to admit. But at any rate, the other thing is, Trump is in a lot more trouble for that recording than I had anticipated. We did breaking news on that recording a short while ago. That recording is a huge deal. I know it's a huge deal. You know it's a huge deal. But then again, I thought a guy running for president saying that war crimes are okay. We should kill the families of terrorists. And by the way, I paid for a hooker or it wasn't a hooker, but sex with a porn star with money from my campaign. I thought that was a big deal. So I have taken myself off of the. I get to decide what's a big deal because clearly the general public doesn't agree with me. But apparently, in this case, I may we may be simpatico. So it's not. That's all overtime. time. We'll cover that at some point as need be, but it seems to be a big thing, and people are getting upset about it. That's all on the Discord for anyone who's interested. Today, we are going to be talking about the new normal. It wasn't that long ago, and it was, Ethan, myself, a few others, would be doing overtime, and we were freaking the fuck out. We're just like, don't you realize we've hit 1,000 new deaths? We're hitting 1,000 deaths a day. This is where we're headed. We're going to be at 2,000. We will be at 2,000 if we don't turn around. We can fix this. We're freaking the hell out. And everybody was freaking out, and things were shutting down, but then people weren't quite doing it, and and I remember it, and I also remember we sort of had to stop broadcasting for a little while because I was getting a little burnt out. I was getting a little depressed because it was just nothing more than numbers, and we were covering the number of hospitals that were shutting down, 12-hour wait times for the ER in Texas, and there were patients stuck in the back with their COVID, and then we showed the nurse, and you could see the morgue from the makeshift, or just the makeshift cemetery from space. The Italy one. And it was just like, it sort of felt like you're shouting into the wind because everybody was just like, oh, hey, it's, obviously we don't want people to die, but we're going to kind of, we'll tell you what, we'll pretend like we're going to do something about it, and then we're going to go back to. So, and then now it's sort of like it's 3,000 a day, it's a 9/11 a day, and we're still all sort of talking about what are we really going to do about this? And I think when Biden comes into office, maybe we'll get some clarity. But right now, it's just sort of like some people are still concerned, some people aren't. And I realized this. I remember, and this is what inspired me to really decide we were gonna talk. We haven't, since we did an after show about when I had COVID, and we didn't mean to. It was a call-in show. We were doing, hey, people call and tell their own experiences, and people have been doing this, and they were talking about their experiences with shortages of a hydroxychloroquine, all this other stuff. And then finally, nobody called in on one show, and I just said, okay, this is what happened to me, and there you go. And then since then, it had been depressing. We stopped. So we're now going to talk COVID. We haven't talked COVID in a while. We're going to talk about it. It needs to be talked about. But I remember what got me thinking about it was I woke up and I started planning for my day. And all these plans had made all these assumptions. And I remember I used to make these assumptions, or when I used to plan my day, I had to figure out how I was going to adjust my day for the fact that my kids were going to be here. And that they also needed instruction, and that the schools have been offloading a lot of the teaching to me. And some of it has to be done. Some of it, I think they're getting a little opportunistic. They're just like, well, hey, and also they've never done this before. So but I'm going to have to teach my kids while trying to do my own stuff, while making sure my wife can do her stuff because she's stuck here. Although sometimes she goes in, so I don't have that. But instead of, in my own head, going, fuck, how am I going to figure things out? I already had it figured out. And there was no, oh, I hope there's something else we can do. It was part of the routine. And I realized the routine is, it's been a year that we've all been at home in one house together. And that's normal now. I'm no longer even really saying, I hope this ends soon, because there's nothing to end. This is normal. This is my day. My day is going to be, I'm going to do my work, I'm going to do my stuff with my kids 2 feet away at all times. That's my day now. And when I watch The Tonight Show and that's their day. So like, we have to talk about this. So I asked Vox, I said, Vox, let's talk about this. And she said, okay, I won't air that without Maute. And I was just like, "What? Fuck that guy!" Sorry, that's not what I said. What I said was, I said, well, he's got scheduling problems. Do we really want to bring Maute up? And we started talking about it. We said, okay, we're going to bring in Maute for reasons that everybody who watches the show already knows. But when I talked to him about the show, there was 30 seconds. I was like, fuck, she's right. he's got to, we can't do it without him. So we waited till all three of us could be here, and here we are. The new normal. Where are we, guys, and what's going on?
All right. So I just was taking some notes as you were doing your intro there. And I think I'm going to start a list as we talk of things that are it'll be the new normal list. At the top of it is everyone's home. Right under that is just being numb to the fact that there are new legal problems for the president of the United States of America almost every day, or every week at least. It's a new normal. Yeah, oh, the president's going to be in legal trouble again. Wow, wow. Right? So that's just from the intro that you had. I have so much to contribute to this just because everything is seems off kilter, but thanks for inviting me to do the show. I'm super excited. This is going to be a fun topic, not because the topic itself is fun, but it is going to be fun because it's not something I really talk about to a lot of people, right? Because it's a little bit of a meta discussion. It's not everybody in my world that I interact with that we can have these. Of course, my wife being one of them, but being able to have this conversation with other people is going to be fun. Being able to hear other stories is going to be fun for me. It's going to, I guess, not to be too ironic, it's going to kind of normalize my own experience, or maybe validate my own experience, so that the things that I'm going to say that seem crazy to me, you guys might just be like, oh yeah, we do that every day. And that'll just be like a gut check, like, oh, okay, so this is how, different people surf this wave. So I'm not going to go into any super details other than to say it's been super, it's been interesting. Everybody is at home, teaching, having the kids be at home. I have teenagers. So yeah, I concur with everything that you said, and I have many stories to tell. But first, I'd like to give the floor to Vox so that she has some time to say what she had to say.
Well, I thought, I was thinking about this, and I think what needs to be pointed out is this is not everyone's new normal, but this is what everyone's new normal should be. And what I mean by that is the conversations that we've had about COVID, the audience that listens to the show know how to behave, know how to act. And if we had all just done the new normal, we would have been past it by now. But there are people that refuse for whatever reason. One of the things that I was thinking about is walking into, say, a place of business that is not like a supermarket or something like that. We don't do that anymore. We don't walk in anywhere. Whenever I go to a doctor's office or have an appointment or something like that, I find a business to let them know that I have arrived. And then I stay in my vehicle until the people are ready to see me, and then I'll exit and go into the business. There's no one in the waiting room. There's no TV on. There's no stack of magazines anymore to rush through. And I'm not as irritated when I go to these things because I'm sitting in my car. I'm listening to my radio. I'm in my own personal space. Right? I'm not in a doctor's office or a dentist's office or something like that, having to behave a certain way, how to hold a certain standard, which is really interesting to me. It's been interesting to kind of go through that. But I will say I'm exhausted. I'm more exhausted than I think I've ever been. But I'm not. But it's not COVID that has me exhausted, right? COVID is what has caused this, obviously. But what has really exhausted me is just the knowledge of how much stupidity has occurred over the last year. That it's January now. With the knowledge that we could have been done and over with this by June, with the knowledge that 350,000 people have died in America, right? This one, by the way, that's exactly 1% of the population. The flu kills about not 1% of the people that get the flu every year. So about 20,000 people die of the flu each year. They're almost always elderly, right? And that's in a bad year. We've had 350,000 people die. It's only been 10 months since COVID came to America. So we've still got 2 more months left to go to rack up 1% of our population. And so just constantly, I sit in my house. I don't go places because I pay attention, right? So my new normal is to follow guidelines. So mine in all is I don't leave my house unless I absolutely have to. If I do leave my house, I have my face coverings on. I'm social distancing because I'm scared. I'm scared to get it. I'm scared for my family to get it. I'm scared to be around people who might have it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I do want to interject here for one quick second. It was the New York Times. The New York Times decided to try to get the most accurate number they could of how many deaths there are. And the problem is most of the death numbers nowadays, they can't come from the CDC because the CDC has been shut down effectively on this by the Trump administration, which is just staggering that the most accurate source we have for information on the greatest health crisis to face the planet in 100 years, and the two best resources we have been attacked by the President of the United States and shut down, the World Health Organization and the CDC. But, and I mean, one of them, the CDC belonging to this country. But nonetheless, the New York Times wanted to figure out I
need to interrupt for a second because we're getting fact checked in real time by our own chat. It's 0.1% of the population, not 1%, Vox. I think that you had mistakenly said 1%, and so you're being taken to task. This is how smart the people are on our Discord. These are our Discord members.
They are. They'll call it this. This happens all the time. And I think Vox actually did. I think she misspoke because she later said not one, which not being, of course, zero. It's in modern U.S. English, it's not used often, but not being zero. So 001. So is that correct, Vox? Am I accurately representing? Yes. So so she actually said it correctly the second time, but the first time she misspoke and said 1%. I think she meant but then when she did the math, she did the math correctly. But thank you, Mike. It wasn't Michael. Was it Michael? Yes, it was. It was both.
I think
Michael
it was both Michael and David.
And both of them are regulars on our Discord, and we'll let anybody. They're happy. They're real happy to let anybody know if they say something wrong. So, but so here's.
Well, I appreciate it because adding and subtracting are about the total sum of my mathematical abilities.
Well, and so here's the quick thing I want to do because we've talked the numbers before, and
I can't tell whether that was a joke or not. So you worked in adding, subtracting, and sum. So what's the difference?
That went over my head the first time. He actually had to explain it. Usually when you explain the joke, you've lost him, but it wasn't until he explained it. Like, that was good. That was actually good. Okay, you know what? He deserves credit for that one. That was fucking funny. Okay, that was good. I like the meta ones. Okay.
And Nick, I'm going to interrupt one more time.
Please,
Did you switch mics? Your mic sounds different.
No, but the settings have been unless it's actually using this one instead of I don't know. I can check the mics. Is it poor?
No. Is anyone else hearing that he's a little different? And if he's not, then maybe it's just my input.
Well, on my end, it's a bit choppy, actually.
Let's figure it out. Like I said, the settings for this one have gotten deleted, and I've done my best to sort of reconstitute them, but I haven't had the chance. I mean, it's the same mic, but all the equalizer settings and everything were deleted. Well, I'll get to it.
We'll check
it's
the
best
back
it can
end.
be right now.
Go ahead and check the back end. Me and Vox will vamp for a hot second.
On the same mic. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, yeah, you guys. Well, let me finish quickly this, and then I'll let you guys go. I'll do this quickly. I think it maybe it's the compressor. I don't know, but let me do this one quickly, unless I just can't be understood. They wanted to get the best numbers we could. The only way we have numbers right now, the numbers are usually numbers of people who have been tested, often post-mortem. They have to save on tests, so they only test people where it's suspected of COVID. So if somebody dies and they don't know whether it's COVID or not, they don't test. So you know that there are COVID cases. So you know the numbers are going to be short anyway. So the question is by how much. So what the New York Times did was they took all the numbers of they took historical mortality rates state by state, and they compared them month by month for the mortality rates for the last year. And they said, okay, where are we? And you could notice a couple of things. They lined up. They were identical until COVID started to go into a state. And as it went into a state, all of a sudden started to change. And they decided to take that delta and say, okay, we're going to assume that that is COVID. Now, that one of the other interesting things about that is COVID causes other deaths by other means that should probably be calculated not into how deadly COVID is, because COVID isn't killing those people, but if COVID overwhelms a hospital system and the hospital's shut down because they can't function, and you need dialysis in order to survive, but now you can't get it because the hospital shut down and you die, well, you have died because of the pandemic. You've died because of the pandemic. COVID didn't kill you, but if the pandemic had been properly controlled, you'd have survived. So you are a mortality to the pandemic. So when we talk about how many lives are lost from mismanagement of this pandemic, and in general, that's what we mean when we say COVID deaths. We're not talking about the mortality rate of the virus itself. We're talking about deaths from the mismanagement from the pandemic, from what's going on here. That's what we mean. It's not just the mortality rate. And what they found was that the numbers were, I think, about 40% higher than had been, and that's my rough recollection. The article is still out there. We actually showed it. We covered all the numbers. We covered Now, there's a couple of other interesting things you have to remember, too. We lose 32,000, 42,000 people a year on our highways. Our highways are safer now because fewer people are driving into work. So those numbers are actually down and will cause an underreporting. But also, of course, deaths and injuries at the home have gone up. So it's still not perfect, but it's better than anything else we've got, and that suggests that the COVID numbers are much higher than even Vox gave. I'm glad Vox gave her numbers. I think that's important, but when somebody gives the numbers like Vox did, I tend to want to say, okay, yep, you're right, but let's also be realistic about this. That's probably about, that's under by 40%. Does that sound fair? Does everybody get how and where I just got to that? And then I'll shut up and take a look at my mic. All right. So I think we're on board. Thank you.
And that was Nick's TED Talk.
Oh, son of a fucking
Tuesday TED Talks here at In Time. In Time Tuesday TED Talks. We'll make it alliterative. All right. So
can we say that 10 times fast? In Time Tuesday TED Talks.
Oh, now it's a tongue twister, right? Yeah, I would not be able to. Do that. So while he was talking, I added more things to the list. One is like hygiene protocols, because I think that while you were talking, you were talking about sitting in your car, and I was thinking like, oh yeah, I now have a container of disposable alcohol wipes for my phone, because every time I get in the car from a different place, I'm like, okay, got to clean my phone, because that is even outside of COVID, your phone is a germ magnet. It is just perpetually, especially if you take it in the bathroom with you. Not enough said. And then I have hand sanitizer in the car every time I go in and out. And at work, I have a hygiene routine. When we come home, we have a hygiene routine. We come home, we change everything, we wash our hands and face, and that's when we're allowed to integrate into the house. So that's new, and it's a new normal. It's just what you do. Yeah. When it's not done, it's weird.
Something that has had an effect on me on your hygiene routine. I have issues with my hands, so to speak. It's not OCD, it's something else. But I don't like my hands always have to be clean. Right? I could eat dirt and not care, but if my hands are dirty, it drives me up a wall. When me and my wife first started dating, one of the things that she said was just so peculiar that she just found funny, endearing, and not like I'm marrying an axe murderer kind of thing. I would have to randomly pull over on the side of the road, and I always carried water bottles with me, but I wasn't there to drink. It was so I could put cold water on my hands, wash my hands, and then keep on driving. And one of the things that was always a no-no for my hands was hand sanitizer. Right? If you just put hand sanitizer in my hands, I would freak out. I would go to the bathroom, I'd wash my hands. I couldn't deal with it because it leaves a film. I can feel it on my skin, and it causes me to have anxiety. And I have been forced now, for obvious reasons, to constantly have to do So it took 6.5 months before we were able to find a hand sanitizer that wouldn't cause me to have a minor anxiety attack when it went on my hands. And my wife finally found it through one of those, Facebook buy my products, I'm your friend kind of thing. It's just spray bottle with a mister with like misted alcohol in it that will, evaporate rather quickly once it's on your skin. And that is the first thing that we found that we put on my hand that wouldn't cause a panic attack for me.
So
I'm the same way. It doesn't cause panic attacks, but I don't like anything on my face. I hate things on my hands, and it's been very hard to find one that I'm okay with. Now, if it's that, or that's why I like gloves. I wear gloves a lot because that's just and you have to follow certain procedures with the gloves to make sure you don't cross-contaminate or spread because gloves have other problems. But okay, this gets back to the new normal. All of a sudden now, and everyone likes to pretend they're an expert, so people will be there like, well, I was wearing the mask over my face here, so even though it didn't cover, I was wearing it. Yeah, it's like now and I'm disorganized as hell, so I have to have 16 masks. So, but okay, there you go.
I don't know how I got COVID. I don't know how I got it.
I was doing everything that all the scientists have told me to do, and this is good, and I'm an expert.
It's almost the chin diaper. It's almost the chin diaper, where it's just like just a little lower, and it's not covering anything. But
I love sometimes our meme community, right? I'm a meme connoisseur, okay, and the pandemic has produced so many wonderful memes.
Jesus,
so there's a four-way meme, right? It's got a picture of a person with a mask on, mask over his mouth but not over his nose, no mask, and mask over the chin. Right, so mask like this says believes in science. Mask like this doesn't understand science. Right? No mask on, science denial, and then mask like this believes in magic. And I loved that. I really did.
I love that. I saw that one. That was in our Discord too, and that was a good one. And they do. I'll do a thing for our Discord. Yeah, that was in our Discord. But so there are people who claim to be these experts, and I know that you can't get COVID from. But when you start to really sit there, and my wife having a PhD in biochemistry just learned the whole thing from. I mean, she just sat down and said, "Okay, poof," and it's a pain in the ass because it's like if I get anything wrong, it's just like nope. And it's just like fuck. But it's like all of a sudden it's almost clean room procedures to get in and out of the. If we want to stop in and pick up a snack for the kids, okay, we got to gear up to get out of the car. Only one of us can go. The kids can't come and choose their snack. It's like all these things that you used to get up, you'd go. If we're on a trip to go see the family, which you also really can't do anymore. But if we're on a trip somewhere, we have to get snacks. One of us goes in. The kids have to pick ahead of time what they want because they don't. One of us goes in, gets the snacks. After you get the snacks, you got to wipe the snacks down. Sounds crazy to most people. Doesn't sound crazy to anybody who understands how this works and why. We wipe the snacks down. You got to take off the gloves. You got to be careful how you take off the gloves. And suddenly it's like a clean room procedure to do all this shit, to do anything. In and out. Maute, you were telling me about your procedures just to get in and out of your house and all this before you even say hello to your family, and you're basically doing the same thing, right?
I can't hear you, Maddie.
Yeah. He's. I wasn't going to tell him he's muted. I kind of.
I know. The less I talk, the smarter you sound. So.
Oh! Ouch! Wow.
I like it.
So, because Shanna is works in healthcare, we have to have a protocol, right? And also, I'm taking Amtrak to Philly. That still blows my goddamn mind. Oh, which, by the way, little rabbit hole. Remind me where I stopped in this conversation. Rabbit hole. Amtrak's schedule is like half of what it was before the new year. So, not that this is like strange, but this is like It is weird because it's like a holiday schedule every day. So, for instance, if you commute using Amtrak, it's convenient because every hour on the whatever, right, 16 after, 30 after, 45 after, whatever, there's a train that goes around your station, especially during the busy times. And now it's like every other hour. And that's normally like the holiday schedule. So today when I was looking to come home, I was done work a little early and I could have caught the 2:45 train. There is no 2:45 train anymore. It jumps from 1:45 to 3:45. And yesterday I stayed home a little bit longer so so my son and I can work on some scheduling for the school thing, which again, new normal, right? When I was like, okay, well, I'll just catch the 8:30 train. There was no 8:30 train. I had to catch the 9:30 train. I just was blown away that the options are limited. It makes sense that Amtrak, in an attempt to maintain costs, they probably love me. I'm a monthly, card holder. But, the trains are like 25% full. So maybe they're just cutting the amount of trains that they let through. Also, there's 4,000 deaths a day. So where did I leave off with that? So I'm going on Amtrak to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, it's not on fire anymore in the way that it has been, but it's a metropolitan area at a time when the nation's numbers are super high. So its numbers are higher than where we live. So we have to have a protocol. We have to have a protocol because we have to assume that we are perpetual asymptomatic carriers, right? So we kind of made a decision that, I made a decision that if Shanna gets sick, I'm not relegating her to a separate room. I'm just going to be getting sick. If she gets sick, we get sick. That's a decision that I know that some of you might not agree with that, but it's a decision that I made about that. But as far as, just coming into the house and protocol and getting the shit from the outside off of us, yeah, we go downstairs and change, use lotion or the hand sanitizer, which, by the way, because it's a new normal, the hand sanitizer, sometimes I forget that I had used it and I'll be eating finger food and I'll accidentally have a piece of my skin touch my tongue and it freaks me out because hand sanitizer is disgusting. It's like bitter and gross. So I'll be eating like whatever, a deviled egg or a hard-boiled egg and I'll be like, what the fuck is that? Oh, it's hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer.
That's something I never had to worry about before, right? Anywho. So yeah, the hand sanitizer. So we come up in a completely different outfit than when we came in the door in, and then we're allowed to give hugs and kisses. I usually like to wash my hands and face first.
I do like to take just a moment to just point out that your wife being a healthcare worker, that the stress level of, I think, the average person who's actually doing the right thing is not, by a magnitude higher than it was prior to the pandemic, which was already a magnitude higher than humans are supposed to be dealing with. Your level of stress is to a magnitude higher than that because it's like you are living in a situation in which daily exposure is a possibility. So it's almost like with our healthcare workers, and with there's not been a terrible amount of conversation about the high number of deaths amongst healthcare workers, right? We talk about how this disease, this virus, obviously kills old people, right? And we talk about how it does seem to be having some lingering effects with young people, but we really don't take a lot of time to talk about the extremely high number of healthcare workers who have died or are permanently disabled now due to lung issues or clotting issues, strokes, kidney issues, liver issues, and on and on and on. And we don't really take the time to really think about that is our normal, mine and Nick's normal, is drastically different from your normal as a husband and essential worker.
You hear that?
Yep.
We deserve to be stressed. We earned the stress that we have.
Do not anger the oracle of the couch. That's all I'm. She's speaking for herself. That's not me. That isn't me. She does not represent the opinion. The opinions of Vox do not necessarily represent the opinions of Nick Time, and especially Nick Time. Wow, in Time, and especially do not represent the opinions of Nick Soutter. Yeah, no. Well, let's just whatever it takes. Nick Time, in Time, Nick of Time, of
That's
Time
like,
in Nick. I don't care what it takes. It's not
like
me,
Trump
Shanna. I'm just
calling
saying.
Tim Cook Tim Apple.
Tim Apple. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Nick Time. This is great. This is like a comic book hero.
Nick Time. Nick Time.
Nick
I'm just-
Time.
Nick
No, I'm not playing.
his
I'm not playing.
superpowers are to poke fun at other people and forget that 7 o'clock is not 7:10.
Where people who do satirical, political, news-oriented podcasts on YouTube.
So I'm not playing.
But no,
You
I
set the
do
record
think
straight
it's
with her.
important to point out, right, that my normal, we take the precautions and everything, but my normal is different from, because I don't spend every day, and my wife doesn't spend every day, and my son doesn't spend every day in an environment where, we oftentimes just don't interact with anybody but ourselves, because the office is shut down, right? So the only people that are there, 2 or 3 people, we don't interact. Shanna is working in a medical field. You interact with her, so you guys have this daily stress on top of everything else that's going on. Did I run into someone that actually, gave me COVID today? Where me, we've gone days without interacting with any other human other than the 3 of us.
A day? Okay. 30,
Not including the staffer, actually.
30 to 80 patients a day, not including the staff. But I also think that the flip side of that coin, Vox, is you get so good at your hygiene protocol, and your system 2 becomes so good at training your system 1.
Yeah.
Like of anybody I know, I trust that Shanna is maintaining protocol and that she's doing it with rigor.
But then Shanna came into the room, and this room had people that had COVID that weren't exposed to the people in this room that had COVID. And then she looked up at the ceiling and saw the vent and said, "It's airborne."
Yeah.
No one? Nick got it. The Outbreak movie with the Ebola,
That's when
looks up at the vent.
Dustin Hoffman runs through the thing, goes from one room to the other, walks in the other room, looks up, sees the vent, it's airborne.
Outbreak?
Sorry, I muted the mic. Yeah, I got it. I'm as old as I look. I wanted to say though, because Maute reminded me. So I had started getting sick, and it turned out to be COVID. We didn't know at the time, and I had thought it wasn't. But one of the things that crossed my mind was, look, we've been in this confined space for a while, and the reality is, actually, before I tell this story, I did want to, because somebody's been pointing out that, okay, it turns out it's not as easily transmissible by surfaces as people had thought, and that's true. But when we're talking about what people have been going through for the last year, for a very long time, it was thought that that was the primary means of transmission. So that's what people have been going through. And even as information changes and we learn more, and even as we still actually do need to practice that hygiene, it is true. It's not nearly as transmissible in the mass.
Well, it's also to misunderstand. It's also to misunderstand the numbers. So I think I did see that comment. Right now, we'll point this out. It's to misunderstand what these percentages mean. Right. So, if you had a 1 in a million chance, say, of winning the lottery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people play the lottery once or twice in their lives. Right, so the odds of them winning the lottery are very, very slim, 1 in a million. But if you're playing the lottery every 5 minutes, every single day, over and over and over, that 1 in a million becomes common occurrence. So yeah, you may only have a 1 in a million chance or 1 in a billion chance or whatever of contacting COVID because you walked into the fast food place and forgot to wash your hands after the person behind you, took a wee-wee, right? But if this is going on every single time you're touching something in the middle of a pandemic when we're dealing with something that's highly transmissible, highly contagious, right? Then that 1 in a million is just a thing that's eventually going to occur, right?
On
So
a long enough,
think that's
you roll the
important
dice.
to point out. Eventually, everything happens, given enough time and occurrences.
Yeah. The more places that you're in, the more novel, out of your house places that you're in that have surfaces to touch, the more chance there is for human error. And that's what makes the exponential part of the math, blow people's minds. Because now that we're at 4,000, we were just at 3,000 like two weeks ago.
Well, I had to go out to go get groceries. My wife went with me. We were in the Walmart. I don't support Walmart. I try not to, but we needed dog food. I watched a man walk down the hallway, pull his mask down to cough, and then put his mask back on.
The exact opposite.
What in the bleeding hell goes through people's mind? Here's your new normal. Here's a new normal, right? We have to now deal with the realization that what we kind of thought but never confirmed is actually a fact. That there is a statistically large percentage of the population who are just that dumb. They're just that dumb. And there's nothing that we can do to change that. There's just that percentage of people who are racist. We have found this out. We just live in a society now where we realize that we are a racist country. We are a stupid country. We are a conspiracy-driven country. And that's a normal that we all have.
When you combine that with the idea that I don't know what the split is between people who are risk takers and people who aren't, that by itself almost predetermines certain political views, or what they see the role of the government as being. And so just with the idea of, boiling it down to risk-taking behavior, you can see how some people are like, I want as little government as possible because I want to do my thing. I want my freedom. Leave me alone. I have ideas. I want to go on adventures. Stay out of it. And other people are like, I want to very safely know that I'm in a society that will protect me. Yeah, please. Let's do government. Let's elect people that are going to do a great job, yada yada yada, right? So I think that kind of breaks down the citizenry in an interesting way. But to your point, regardless of the actual reasons why, because that's kind of like a different discussion, it's interesting how our psychology works, right? We are now in a society where it is the new norm to find daily videos on YouTube and Twitter and whatever social media you happen to be on of people not wearing masks proudly, and not wearing an article of clothing on your face is something to rally around, right? That's a new normal. And also, all of these new norms we were talking about, Nick, I think that one of the things that I had told you that where you were just like, oh yeah, that, how quickly our brains are able to accept new realities, right? And so I have a quick story. I think I've already told this story on In Time before, but I once tried some Oculus VR goggles, and I'm scared of heights. But I chose the rock climbing program because I thought they were going to put you at the bottom and you got to climb your way up. Lo and behold, as soon as it turns on, I'm a mile up, hanging on by my fingertips, right? And my body reacted like it was really happening. My mind just accepted that this is the new reality. And it just moments ago, like it was having a conversation with me, if it was having a conversation with me, it would be something like, "Hey, moments ago you were in a Best Buy. Now you are a mile above the ground on a rock that you're climbing." Right? It just accepted that stark contrast in seconds. Right? And because I'm literally, that is a phobia that I have. It's not a just like, oh, I don't like it, prefer thing. I am so scared of heights that the guy that was doing the demo with me, seconds into it being on and seeing my reaction, he says out loud, "You really are afraid of heights." It was observable. It was demonstrable in my behavior. I was sweating. It was a mess. So all of that to say, our brains are amazingly good at accepting new realities. Immediately. And that's the harsh part of these past 4 years, because it's our superpower, right? As Doctor Who would say.
Yeah, superpower is forgetting, but also
human superpower is forgetting.
Adaptability and ability to just forget.
But the crazy things that we've been exposed to has kind of been has psychologically hacked us to just like, oh, okay, we have a president who makes phone calls to change laws and, you know, in his favor. And he's also like a bully. He's also kind of like a mafia don. And crazy things come out about him in the news every single day because he tweets crazy single things every single day. This is amongst a pandemic that he's done fucking dick balls about. And it's just like, yeah, this is not like me listing these things is making me tired. But it's just the fucking grind. I've had enough of this bullshit. Bye-bye, 2020. I can't wave?
Yeah. Well, there's another meme somebody dropped in our Discord of a door, and there's a whole bunch of people, and they're down a hallway, and like tentatively looking at the door, and the door says 2021. And they've got this long stretch, one of those grip it arms, and it's just stretched out. they're like, hey, they're tentatively trying to open the door, but they're really, really far away. Like, I don't know if I want to see what 2021's got to give. But I wanted to tell this really quick story before I want to ask you about something from the new normal. Well, there's a lot to go over because I've been taking notes. But I wanted to tell you, you had said you and your wife had, and I think this is a conversation that couples have to have. And being that my wife and I are very well educated. And really, you know, we're an intelligent, modern couple. We obviously didn't have this conversation, but I think couples should have this conversation, which is, of course, what happens if one of us gets sick and the other doesn't. And I had seen, it wasn't Anderson Cooper, it was because there's somebody who got sick, and when he talked about his sickness on CNN, it was Cuomo, the brother of Governor Cuomo, got sick on CNN, and he and his wife sequestered them when they're kids, and now, I'm looking at our situation, and I'm just sitting there going, now you had said that you just sort of decided that we're not, if she gets sick, you get sick. And to tell you the truth, I can see why people would find that highly offensive and would say that's really a fucking bad idea. On the flip side, first of all, you know, you have to be able to take care of each other, and it makes it a lot easier if you're just going to say we're going to drop protocols. And the reality is, we're in this house, we've been boxed in this house forever, and by the time we know one of us is sick, I have no idea how the whole house doesn't already have it. I don't know how that's possible. So on the 1 in a million chance that one of us doesn't have it, we're going to make everybody's life a living hell, sequester somebody who's really ill, make it harder to treat them, harder to give them care, make their lives miserable on the 1 in a million chance that it somehow didn't spread in a confined space when we had it for days and didn't know. No. So I'm sitting there going, like, if my wife gets it, I've got it. But the kids are probably going to get it first. They had been spending some time outside, and they had actually gotten sick first. And so both of them got sick, and I was like, okay, they've been sick. They clearly would have had it for 3 to 4 days before being symptomatic, and they're transmissible then. They had been hanging with us. We've been giving hugs and kisses. We're affectionate with our kids. So I'm like, we've all got it. Now, this is my process, right? And I didn't bother talking to my wife about it. I just figured that this just goes without saying. So now I'm sick, and it's not huge, it's not big, but it's clear something's wrong. I got a temperature. It's 100 it's 102, or not 102 yet, but it's 100.5, something like that. I'm sick. There's something wrong. Fine. So, my thinking is, obviously, we're going to throw this because everybody's got it. So I just go up to my wife. I'm about to give her a hug, and she's just like, "Man, I don't know you like that. What the fuck?" I was just like, "This is my wife," and she's just like, "Duh," and I was just like, "What? We've been in this." Oh dear Lord. So the conversations you need to have. But she and I had two very different perspectives on oh dear Lord. And of course, she got sick, and yada yada yada. But nobody got nearly as sick as I did. But it's just like, really? Okay. So we've been talking about the stress, and Vox talked a lot about the stress, and it seems to me that we're all going to start, and all of us, actually, quite frankly, because it has been a traumatic experience for basically just about everyone. I talked earlier about, okay, we've got, and I also want to talk about our families. I'm a little concerned. So none of my girls are in high school yet, but I have extended family who lost their junior and senior years in high school. And those were the ones that were some of the most formative for me. And they maybe interacted with 3 people in real life the entire time, that entire year. How is that gonna influence who they are, and then when this is over, their ability to interact with people? These are formative years. People are missing. Is that going to have an impact? I mean, I don't know that we have a template for this, but can we have any guesses? And then going forward, also, this strikes me as being traumatic to everybody. We've had our lives upended. All of us have at some point been scared shitless by this. We've been looking at the numbers and said, oh my God, this is really a thing. Most of us probably remember when we started to really realize that. For me, it was when I was looking at Italy. And then most of us have had multiple traumas. Maybe family members have died as a result of this. People we knew, people we respected who were famous and died from it, and we're just like, this is taking out people from my childhood. This is taking out people from campaigns. Herman Cain died, who nobody respected. I'm sorry to say, I probably shouldn't be, but I mean, it was, he was he wasn't held in reverence, I should say. Oh. But,
the jazz world is getting decimated by this. The jazz world, all the old school jazz cats, not all of them, more than all of the old school jazz cats are succumbing to this. So that's all to your point, as you were saying.
Well, exactly. So what is this doing to our psychology? How are we going to grow up? And obviously, human beings are nuanced, and there's no answer that's going to cover everybody. And maybe there's I don't know what the answer to this is, but just spitballing. Are we going to grow up more scared of everything? Are we going to grow up more resilient? Because, at least when I say we, our kids are, it's had an effect on my psychology.
Shanna thinks that we're going to forget all about it. Shanna thinks we're going to dip into the superpower. How long do you think that'll take before we forget?
So, I think it's going to take, before we forget, I think there's going to be, to Nick's greater point, I think there are going to be fundamental changes to society.
Can everybody hear this?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that they'll be small, and I think that there'll be things that we look back on like, oh, that's when that changed. Oh, that's when that happened. Kind of like when the internet got started, and before you knew it, you were texting. But can you really remember at what point in your life you started texting? Like, it just kind of phases. I think that some changes are going to happen because of this, and they're going to be similar to that. Okay. Otherwise, I think, especially in this country, we're going to forget. And I think it's going to be, I'd give it by next spring, where this is all just a nonsense. I just think by next spring, we're barely going to hear anything about this.
A little over a year from now?
Yep.
Yeah, I am going to get...
They're going to be able to shed it, and they're going to be able to shed that stress. And spring's going to come back, and they're going to be so happy that the brain's ability to cope with stress, one of its superpower is forgetting, adapting and forgetting. That's how we, I just think it's going to be quick, especially this country.
All right.
I am going to Photoshop a picture of a crystal ball and a picture of a couch. I'm going to put the crystal ball on the couch. I'm going to open up a 4th window, and from now on, every time you're on, I'm going to have...
Give me a Sharpie and a piece of cardboard.
I don't have either of those things except
Are you serious?
Every time I have you on, I'm getting two hosts for the price of one. I love it. It works great.
So I'd like to point out, you were asking about kids real quick. So, and I don't know about other kids, but I can certainly talk about my son. Because the younger kids, I've talked about this before, that we obviously approach everything from our own biases, right? And so we have acknowledged biases and we have unacknowledged biases. And it's the unacknowledged biases that are the ones that we really have to be kind of make ourselves aware of so that they become known biases. And one of those biases that we should know about, but we don't pay much attention to, is centric biases. And what I mean by that is, so for instance, if you'd ask a person, are animals as smart as humans, right? Or are there any animals that are as smart as humans? There's a couple things that go on. First of all, we've made a distinction between every other species on this planet and humans, right? We are animals. Humans, animals. We are a Homo sapien is the genus of the great apes with bonobos and orangutans. And we're just slightly different. Is there any animal that's as smart as us? So we've automatically put ourselves up here, right? Now I say that to talk about children and the way adults and our adult-centric biases look at the way that we treat children. So, for instance, children, right, people under the age of 18, this is the only group of people on the planet where, in the United States at least, where it's legally okay to physically harm them, right? It's not okay to physically harm an adult once you go over that map, but it's okay to hit your kid, right? Yes. It's okay to do a lot of things to children, and children are obviously the most vulnerable, right? They don't know how to. So why do parents hit children, right? Because children are expressing themselves, but they don't have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of being in society, right? So they don't express themselves the same way. So kids get angry, sad, happy. They feel all the same emotions that we feel. They go through all the same environmental things that we go through, right? Now, when we have a rough day, right, we come home, we crack open a beer, drink a glass of wine, cuss a little bit, maybe indulge in some chocolate or whatever, and that's just normal behavior. And if we saw an adult doing that, we'd just say, yeah, a rough day, right? But if a child comes home, stressed out day at school, right, we say, what is the matter with you? Stop acting out. Why are you yelling? Why are you stomping, right? Because they don't have the coping mechanisms that we do. Now, I say all that to say this. First of all, we obviously need to do a much better job of the way that we deal with parenting our children. But how have children dealt with? What is the child's new normal, and how have they dealt with it? Well, so for instance, my son has become perpetually scared of everything, right? All my son knew, my son is 10, right, to give context to this. All of a sudden, right, my son just went one day, because he doesn't know what a pandemic is or anything like that. One day he was going to school with his friends, everything was fine, 5 days a week, hanging out, learning, doing his thing. The next day, everything shut down, right? He's not seeing his friends. He's not seeing his buddy. His routine's been, completely turned around. Mommy and daddy are panicked. There's obviously something going on, right? But I don't understand this very well. So he has become perpetually scared of everything. He wants to sleep in the bedroom. He always wants someone around. He doesn't want anybody not being around him. And that's how he's dealt with it. He's also obviously, having a 10-year-old in the house constantly, perpetually, sugar high, so to speak, running around is very, very stressful. Right? It's extremely stressful. And he has just now, and this is to kind of go off of Shanna's point, he has just now, it's been, 10 months, he has just now started to acclimatize himself to this new normal. Well, what has the people in charge seem to have done? Well, a lot of these places just seem to have tossed their hands up and then said, fuck it. We can't we don't have constitutional authority to do this because we're a locality or whatever, so we can't force you to behave like fucking human beings who give a shit about your fucking neighbours. Right? Can't force you to do that, so we just give it up. Right, so school's back in session 5 days a week for my son. He's got to go back to school 5 days a week. Little pandemic. Right? So just as he gets used to this routine where he's back sleeping in his bedroom, now we've got a brand new thing, right? So now all the friends are back, right? But what do we know happens? What happens when you put a bunch of dirty little heathens in the middle of a pandemic together? What's going to happen? Gee, I don't fucking know. Maybe they become a super spreader event. I don't know, like fucking Sturgis. We just don't learn. We don't learn. And it's the least amongst us who always suffer the most. Right. This is true of anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was important to point out, is that the psychological effects on children are vast. And we don't know the long-term ramifications. We don't know what the long-term ramifications of survival of COVID is going to be. We don't know what the long-term ramifications of being cooped up in the home with people are. We don't know what the long-term psychological traumas from this are, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a trauma. People think about trauma, they think about war. They think about a guy, watching his buddy get blown up. Trauma is trauma, period. Now, I don't care how... we judge, what are you talking about, trauma? That's not severe. Well, it's not severe to you, but it was severe enough to this person to cause irreparable psychological harm. So I think we are going to have a very, very, I agree that we'll move on. I agree with Shanna that, especially in America, we will fucking move on and we will forget. But the damage this thing has done, both mentally, physically, economically, is devastating.
Well, and of course, that's the other thing, which is we always think of this in terms of, we do the splitting behavior, right? We think of this in terms of black and white, who lived, who died. But for every person who died, there's 10 more that has permanent health consequences of some kind, just based on the numbers we have so far. Now, in some cases, it's kidney problems. We're learning that there are neurological problems. We're learning that there's all sorts of other long-term health consequences that we just don't know. Why don't we know? Because it hasn't been around long-term enough for us to really understand what this does. But this isn't as simple as it either kills you or you recover 100%. There are people who never fully recover. And there are more of those, we're learning more and more than we're aware of. And there are effects also that it turns out you can look like you're okay for a good number of months, and then all of a sudden you get other symptoms that appear to be related to it. So, and it's going to take years to fully figure this out. But when you start to consider not only how many people have died, which, if you really want to bring it back to the economy, because I guess that's what people care about, okay, that's a drain on the economy, but then start to take into account that we're going to have to care on some level for people who have kidney failure as a result of this, or who have severely degraded mental faculties because of this. The damage from this is staggering, and while the damage of going on a complete lockdown would have been severe, it would have been less A than just continuing and going forward, and B, we would have recovered quicker because more of our population would have been intact. And we know this, first of all, because we could just look at the numbers and because some of us could fucking add. The other reason we know this is because for the Spanish flu, that's exactly what happened. And they already knew it then, too, because they had enough experience. Now, for the Spanish flu, people sort of sit there and say, we've figured out now how to deal with viruses. We had figured it out then, too. And they said, we're all going to have to, they did their own lockdowns for the Spanish flu. And they said, we're going to have to do social distancing. I don't know what they called it then. I don't think that was the PC term, but they wore masks. You can see pictures of school children wearing masks. Why? Because they knew 100 fucking years ago it works. This isn't new shit. This isn't science conspiracy. Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I would just like to do this just one point. So 50% of the vote in Georgia has now officially been counted. And with 50%, according to the people at the New York Times, Democrats are beginning to pull clearly, if not slightly ahead in our estimates, and have outperformed currently all measurable expectations. Is still extremely close, but as of right now, Ralph Warnock is up 1.2 percentage points over Loeffler, and Ossoff is up 0.7 percentage points over Perdue, which is weird to me. I don't understand why anybody would split this ticket, but current estimates point to a dead heat with slight advantages and growing advantages for both Warnock and Ossoff in Georgia, with 50% of the vote now counted.
What's the current on the Senate? Is it 48?
It is 48 to 50.
48 to 50.
So Republicans currently have 50 seats. Democrats currently have 48 seats. So Democrats have to win both of these seats in order to have 50-50 control of the Senate, with Kamala Harris, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, being the president of the Senate, thus being able to cast a deciding vote. And of course, obviously, being able to remove Mitch McConnell from his office as majority leader, because there would be no majority. And Democrats and Republicans just need to win one. They just need to win one. So Democrats need both, Republicans just need.
So it's tight.
So
it looks like
I just wanted to give that. The vote is coming in rather quickly. There are still people in line, though. There are still people in line that are currently voting, and there will be still people in line, I would imagine, for a very long time. But with 51% now reporting, the numbers are.
What time is it in Georgia?
It's 8:43 p.m. in Georgia at the moment.
Okay, so they're East Coast time?
Yes, they are East Coast.
So obviously that's a staggeringly important race. If the Dems win both, they essentially have control. It's a tie, but because they have control of the White House, they have control of the Senate. So if they lose even one, they lose control of they don't have control of the Senate now, but they certainly don't get control of it. So thank you. Thank you. So I think that's definitely worth staying on top of. So, but to the point, I think, there's this idea that scientists are making this up and it's conspiracy. We've known for 100 years what disease is. We've known for a lot more than that, actually, of course. But we've known for 100 years how these things spread, and we've known how to stop it. And there was right after World War I think it was, there was the Spanish flu. In Denver, they went on lockdown. Businesses started to complain. They broke lockdown early. The numbers got a lot worse, and they ended up losing far more people to the Spanish flu than they did to World War I. And the mayor had said at the time, listen, if we just get through this right, and if we wait, we will be able. And it's just funny because you can just see a mirror of what we're doing now, and it's like it's what Vox said earlier. It's like we never learn. We never learn. And what the scientists are telling us now, they're telling us not based on history. They're telling us based on the science that they're looking at and what they know about this virus and how it spreads. But it also, coincidentally enough, and this is one of the funny things about science, is it happens to coincide with history. Because that's one of the funny things about the truth when you happen to land on it, is it's usually pretty consistent. And this is how these things work. And it's sort of like, we're suffering the consequences that were entirely predictable. It's not as bad as it would have been if we hadn't have done the closures we did. It's far worse than it could have been if we had not gotten out of the first kind of lockdown and the first shutdowns early. And if we had taken this serious, and if we had a national strategy from the beginning. We didn't.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. And it's here's something that's a new normal. Trying to communicate science in a backdrop of chaos. I've for a week, for about 2 or 3 days solid, me and my buddy Keith had a conversation where he's like, Fauci should be fired. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he should be fired. He's been caught lying at least twice. And I was like, what? what are you talking about, right? And so because he's my friend, I ask for sources, and he tries to give me videos and this, that, and the other. And so we talk it out. And usually, depending on the topic, I'm able to kind of talk him off a cliff. Sometimes he's able to talk me off of a cliff. But that I had to keep pointing out that any problems that you see with Fauci is somebody who is doing the best to do their job with no federal government support at all, right? So it's not that it's not that this can be compared to any other administration. This isn't an all things being equal, Fauci sucks. No, because all things are not equal. If you think that Fauci looks bad, that is just a testament to how shitty the fucking bricks are that he's trying to build a house with. That's all. Science communication for the win.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I would like to take a second to point out some of the, and this is going to sound weird, but the positive new normals that have come out of this pandemic. Things that we have had ahas about that I think will lead to positive changes in our society. One of those things is a lot of people's realization that working class people, and when I talk about working class people, I'm talking about, from your paper shucker all the way up to middle management, right? There are a lot of jobs done by a lot of people where these people spend a lot of money having to go to and from work, right? A lot of stress involved in this job is having to get to and from work. And a lot of these people can actually do their job from home. And a lot of people become much more productive when they are in a comfortable environment with less stress. And this has happened to a lot of people. I would imagine that we do not see a huge return of these people to an office type environment. Or at least there will be a ability to pick and choose kind of thing. So that's a positive. Another positive is telemed. Okay. And two things came out of telemed. One, we realized that the reason, one of the reasons that things are so expensive, the office visit, right? So why am I spending $150 to have a doctor come in for 2 seconds and just, and we can do a vast majority of that over telemed. Right. Mm-hmm. So instead of needing to show up physically to a doctor's office, where there might be sick people, by the way, because it's a doctor's office, you never know, I can do it on my cell phone. Hey, Doc, how you doing? Yeah, I've got a bit of a cough. You want to see at my mouth? Kind of thing like that. Works fantastic, right? And by the way, people are smart enough to realize that you can't charge as much for a telemed visit as you can for an in-office visit, right? So I expect to see certain costs of healthcare actually go down, or at least the realization that these things should be going down. Right? Also, prescription
needs to make that realization ubiquitous.
No. So, if we have telemed or video med, so if we have a telemed appointment and it's telephone, the billing changes. We have to bill less for that because it's per minute spent on the phone with a patient. No doctor worth his degree is going to have a complex conversation with somebody over the phone. It's not happening. The telemed, so the video appointments, those get to bill a little higher, and those bill almost to the normal rate. So I can bill a 99213T or 99213, and the difference is $20. So it's not that big of a difference. And the idea, and this is just a personal thing for me, the idea that the doctor only spends 2 minutes in the room with you is just it's a testament to the bad perception and bad communication on the doctor's part too. But what they do before they come in the room with you is review your records, compare your records to other charts across platforms. If you have other records from say you're in an Epic system, but you're also in a Ohio Health system, they'll compare those two. Sometimes they call other doctors before they come in and talk with you. So it's not just the doctor spends 2 minutes with you, it's that your issue's probably so simple that they don't need to spend a lot of time on it, even though it might seem complex and important to you. So there's a breakdown there, but the billing's not going to change that significantly. You can't have major conversations over the. I won't get on this. I'll stop. But you can't have serious conversations with patients over the phone or over video because you need to show them certain images. You need to show them like the study results and what that means. You need to examine them. You need to confirm diagnoses. Like, you have to throw caution to the wind and approach the bedside and examine the patient. Like, you can't. There's a lot that you can't do. So. And I do think there's a failure there on medicine's part, especially in the United States, of communicating these kind of things to patients because they get those kind of bad perceptions. But I think that it's great because it'll change to some degree. We can keep some of the high-risk, low-complexity cases out of the office. But if anything is high-risk, high-complexity, you should be seen by your doctor. And it's only a $20 difference. That's it. I'm done.
I think that's an excellent point, though. By the time you see your doctor, they've already.
I just want to point out here real quick. So I'm obviously not talking about, complex situations, and I'll just give an example of what I am talking about. So my son takes ADD medication. I don't know what the difference is, but he takes one of those pills. Right now, usually, in order to get a refill for that, we'd have to do an in-office visitation. Right, so we'd have to pay the in-office rate. Now, we've got good insurance, right? And we pay for very good insurance, but we've got good insurance, fortunately. Right? But the in-office amount, right, I think our copay ended up being $20 or something like that, right? Something small. Now, what we do is we schedule telemed. So his doctor, right, pops up on the screen. Hey, how you doing? Right, just here for medication, asks 5-6 questions. And then Patrick comes up to the camera, does open your mouth, this, cough for me. Okay, great. We're going to give you a 3-month renewal on your medication, right? And of course, if I said, well, this has changed and that's changed, they say, okay, well, you need to come into the office, right? But we skip that bit now, right? We skip that bit where, so the copay for the telemed, $5. Right, we get the $5 bill, which is interesting. Now, $15 is meaningless to me. It's meaningless, right, in the grand scheme of things. But for someone that's making $7.25 an hour, $15 could be the difference between going to the doctor or having a conversation with the doctor or eating.
Not to. I mean, I don't want to derail it too much, but I mean, like, those kind of visits are necessary because they're narcotics, right? They're controlled, well, not narcotics, but they're controlled substances. So, like, federal laws are that the patient has to be examined by the physician in person. So, like, that's not with the doctor doing that. And somebody making $7.50 an hour is on Medicaid. Like, they could get state insurance. But to your point, the copays are. I mean, it's nice to have that stuff waived for sure, but it's also, that's a contract between you and your insurance company, not the doctor. Like, the doctor, that's not where the doctors make their money. They make it on the billing end. But I mean, like I said, I don't want to go back and forth too much. I just don't. I want to help. I want to help understanding if I can.
We need a show where Shanna just comes in and talks about the way our healthcare system works.
I think we
I could help a lot.
We haven't done a show.
It's challenging, and that's one of the challenges with COVID is that there's misconceptions on how science works and how the medical community works. And how the medical field itself works. Like, we still
vaccinations.
We still have patients that come in and they're, they don't want to wear their masks, so we'll make them leave if they don't wear their mask. Like, well, I've got the right. No, actually, you don't. Like, your rights end where ours begin. Get out. And they don't. Like, there was a really good meme, was it the other day? Like, did you send it to me? It said science is finally confirmed. The nose is connected to the lungs. And people like,
yes, I've seen that before.
I didn't see that one.
And somebody else must have sent it, yeah.
I need to send it to Pam.
But I think one of the failure of science communication and communicating with patients and the the public about this stuff so they understand it better, so they're not so intimidated and kind of like
shunned.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know this?
Unfortunately, we've gotten to a point in time, right? It's not merely just communication, right? The science community doesn't possess the capacity to communicate, to deal with. I want to hazard away. It's not the science community's fault necessarily. Like, I don't want to put the blame there because the science community can't deal with Twitter, right?
I blame jock culture that kind of nonsense. Then that gets very deep very quick, and I don't want to derail again. But I don't blame science for this. Chris does.
Well, I'm more saying something to the
What?
effect of it's very difficult for an institution to deal with, and again, here's another new normal, right? To keep it on track with where we are. How much more have we all become reliant now on Twitter and Facebook and Twitch and Steam and these social media engines that we know will fortify our echo chambers, try to sell us things, in pursuit of the almighty dollar, so to speak, right? And so when we talk about, because I've said this before, right? We need to do a better job of educating people about these things. But these topics, when vaccination conversations, right? Sometimes you can have, like, I've had conversations where people have had the aha. Like, I had a conversation recently with a guy about herd immunity. And he had one of those, you know what? That makes sense. Yeah, you know what? I need to go get a vaccine, don't I? Right? But the level of conspiratorial want of large percentages of the population will outclip any actual factual information that does. Like, I can put a scientist in front of you all day long. Like, Anthony Fauci has 13 degrees. Honorary and earned, but 13 degrees. Your friend thinks that he's lying to him. Thinks that he's lying to him.
Yeah.
I don't think, if there was one person on earth outside of Jesus himself or the Prophet Muhammad that wasn't going to lie to me, it would be Anthony fucking Fauci.
Oh, God,
but that's because
when he came, he was on NPR doing an interview. That was the first time I heard him say, when the vaccine was released initially, they asked him point blank, "Will you get this vaccine?" He goes, "Yes, and I'll give it to my children too." And I'm like, and I literally came home and told Chris, like, "Oh, we're good. Fauci said it's fine." Like, that was enough for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, and see, here's the thing. I think a lot of people think that when people say yes and I'll give it to my kids, that there's no worry. I'm going to take the vaccine, my wife's going to take the vaccine, and my kids are going to take the vaccine. Does that mean I'm not worried about side effects of a vaccine? Of course not. Of course I am. Of course, in the back of my mind, somewhere I'm sitting there thinking, could something bad happen to me because of this vaccine? Of course I am, right? Am I still going to fucking take it? Yes. Of course I'm going to take it.
And by the way,
you've done the risk-benefit analysis, right? You've done the risk-benefit analysis.
And the other thing I know is that this is something that's so unprecedented. If something were to happen, my government would take care of me because I have faith in my institutions.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not sure what you've been smoking, but send it over.
Everything except that last little bit made a lot of sense to me.
No, she lost me. She had me up till there. But and I make the same calculation. I mean, to be honest, and let's just be honest. When I'm going on vacation, and if I'm going out of the country, and I'm going to some beautiful spot out of the country, as I get on the plane, I make the same calculation. I don't like to fly, and statistically speaking, I also know that planes are safer. It would be safer to take the plane there than driving there. And I still think, you know what? There is a danger getting on this plane. There is. There just is. There isn't anything you can do that's safe.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Yeah.
Don't leave the house. Don't drive a car.
So I want to start to try to wrap this up, and I want to start with something that we've touched on a couple of different times, which is what has changed for the better. What is the new normal going forward?
Good for you, Nick. Good for you.
That's what Vox was trying to do.
Yeah. Everything's safe. End on that fucking positive note, brother. End on that high note. I love it.
What has changed for the better, folks? What's the new normal that is better?
Yeah. Well, so I was saying, I think there are some better changes. I think but that's because we were, before, right? So before, on a good day during the week, me and my wife had maybe an hour and a half together the entire day. Right, that was it. An hour and a half. Wake up, kids are at school, kids come home, got to cook food, homework, dinner, wash, rinse, right? And then, of course, we're exhausted. We want to go to bed. We had about an hour and a half together. Right now, we're getting 4, 5, 6 hours a day together. Right, so these things that we used to push aside, we can't push aside so much anymore. When you spend more time together, these things come up. So there's behaviors that we've changed. Now, that's just a personal for me. That's a positive for me, right? Is my relationship with my wife is stronger. My relationship with my children is stronger, right? But here's something I think that we'll try to at least take away from this is the realization of how important leisure time is to humans as a species. Right? We're not meant to be doing and living the way that we have. Really, if you work more than 30 hours a week, you're doing too much. Right? You should be spending at least half of your time, half of your day, drinking wine, socializing, masturbating, having sex, looking at the stars, daydreaming.
All at the same time.
Reading all at the same time. Absolutely. All at the same time, right?
Hold on. I gotta write this down. I'm gonna so tell my wife this. This is, I'm like, wait, hon, Fox told me.
Imagine this monkey, right? It's like God drinking a glass of wine while eating a thing of peanut butter while doing dancing, and trying to masturbate with your toe while you're having sex at the same time.
Nothing sexy about this at all.
There's nothing a bit all sexy about this whatsoever. Oh my God! But yeah,
this sounds oddly self-serving, but okay. Yeah.
I know, right? But we really should. We really should be spending more time with leisure. And here's the thing, right? Society can only change if the majority of people want that society to change, right? And generally speaking, societal change is only ever violent, right? It's only ever violent. Well, we're going through something extremely violent right now. COVID is violent, and so. We've got the violence. Why not turn it into something positive, right? 30-hour work weeks, universal basic income, right? Free healthcare, free college, right? We could do so much. It's called, and by the way, it has a name. It's called the Great Reset, right? It's got a name. It's been battered around by academics recently, especially in Europe, right? The Great Reset. We reset everything that we knew, and we go about how do we make things better, and we don't worry about our divides, right? Oh yes. Oh, hello. Nice to meet you, sir.
I used to. So what I used to do was every time Vox said something that got us demonetized, I would like shout it out and be like, "Oh, we just got now it's just like I just keep a ticker." Monkey masturbating with banana and toes
monkey
holding
masturbating. Yeah, like, you know what? Yeah, monkey masturbating. Return to monkey, right? I've got a girl I want to bring onto this show, right? She's a schmegan. There is a difference, by the way. She's a schmegan.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
It's not a vegan.
Okay. I trust you.
She is all about this thing called return to monkey, right? Where she thinks that she thinks that everything we do is so intolerable to the planet that we should either return to monkey or kill everybody on the planet, right? Just wipe us all out as a species and start over. But the few that are decent, we should just strip naked, run out into the savannah, and go back to eating, bugs and chasing squirrels. Humping in the sand. And to be honest,
that show will be interesting for ratings. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So there you go. That's how I'm gonna end this show. Return to fucking monkey.
Okay. So you were saying? Yeah. Okay.
So Shanna has a couple contributions to make to the good things about 2020.
Oh yeah. So
you said 2 things specifically.
I've got 2 things specifically.
You're only allowed 2.
That's all I need.
3's too many.
Dos. Ni.
1's not enough.
Got it. So The first
Oh,
one
now she's just
is,
showing
I
off.
think, what you said, and I think you got, I don't know where you got it from, but that's probably what helped Biden get the presidency, because we got to vote early, and we got to, like, it encouraged that kind of voting outcome. So that's A+.
Okay.
And then cycling through the spring was fucking brilliant. There was no cars anywhere. That was fantastic. It's like we had the roads for the spring. That was magical.
Yeah. The planet got to breathe for a month or so.
There was jellyfish and was it Venice?
Maybe. So that's interesting. For me, specific good things, I genuinely, to ride on the coattails of, like, I wrote it down as Vox was talking about hybrid working, hybrid medicine, hybrid counseling. And by hybrid, I mean the ability to either go in person or do video. So we'll just call it video counseling. The popularity of that is super encouraging. Not only am I a consumer of video conferencing, but other members of the family are, and I recommend it. It is just fantastic, right? Now, of course, we transitioned from in real life counselors to video, so it's the same people. There is continuity, but there are also platforms. At least 3 super popular ones. Unfortunately, I don't remember their names. That offer it, so it doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to look for counselors near you. You just need to go to this website, and some of them are reimbursable. I think through FlexServe, through your pre-tax. I don't know if insurance covers it though, so I don't want to make any claims beyond my my understanding. So that, to me, that is a definite bright spot. The ubiquity of video counseling is helping to, in my opinion, bring down the stigma of mental health disorders. So
nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I have much to contribute. I like what Vox had said, and I hadn't thought of it. The exact same thing is true for me, and much more so. I haven't been able to. Maute, what people don't realize about Maute is he's a dangerous individual. There's this thing called mindfulness, which is a weapon somehow. Don't ask me how. I can't discuss it, but it's weaponized, and he practices it. So, but I haven't been able to be as mindful of some of the changes in my family, and I'm trying right now even to be more mindful of it. And I'm thankful of the fact that Maute reminds me to do that. But I was thinking, just actually earlier today, it's sort of like if I'm telling a story of things that I had said that I had 2 doctor's visits today, and they both got failures with both of them, yada yada yada. And I was telling one of these stories to my wife, and one of them was, in fact, that one of the meds I'm taking makes me a little loopy. And I was told by the doctor, well, if you can drive here in 10 minutes, we can have the appointment. It's like, I can't drive right now. And I'm telling the story in part of the, she's like, well, you could have taken an Uber. You could have, and it's sort of like, that's not helpful in my telling the story. It's helpful maybe for the future, but, there's problem solving, and then there's, and that kind of thing but she immediately corrected herself. And she realized that kind of thing, that wasn't, and then it's just sort of like, I didn't even say anything. I didn't even do a subtle, and it's like, and then, she gets upset that, sometimes she's the only one doing the laundry, and I had doing extra laundry, and I'm trying to make sure I'm cleaning up. Some of the messes don't bother me, but it really bothers her. But I'm like, well, it bothers her. Why? He can be the one cleaning it up. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there going but and then I'm realizing I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One, because we're all living together and we're going to shoot each other if we don't. 2, because I'm being also reminded of all the reasons I love her, and all of the reasons that she was really special to me when we married, and that we're going through this together. And when we sit down and say, holy shit, there's something that's affecting every human being on the motherfucking planet, which hasn't happened in my generation, my parents' generation, other than perhaps going back to World War II. She and I think the same way about these things. And when we talk about masks and we talk about, other than, again, it's just like, I know I'm sick, hon. Now give me a hug. Like, I don't know you. Like, I'm just like, whoa, okay. But other than that little hiccup, I mean, for the most part, it's just sort of like we're very simple. And it's just sort of like, she and I will be at a school meeting back when they had them. And it's like, I look at her and we're thinking the same thing. And we're on the same page. And the things I'm bad at, I hand off to her. And the things she's bad at, she hands off to me. And we just sitting there going, this is why. And I'm realizing, why have I been handing for the last 10 years, however long, so much of the shit to her just because it doesn't bother me? I was like, well, it's her problem. She can deal with it, and I'll deal with my. It's just sort of like, that's a marriage. And I mean, that's not to say, I mean, we've been happy and we've been, but all of a sudden I'm becoming present, and I'm sitting there going, if you care about her in the way you say you do, find other ways to be there. I was like, I don't think I'd have thought about that if we hadn't been trapped in a motherfucking hellhole of a house for a year. I'm sorry. At any rate, so
I'm gonna play this on.
Oh shit! Somebody is gonna clip that. I always get these clips too of these weird ones. So not in the dumpster fire. That was an actual dumpster that was on fire or flying down. But at any rate, which we covered just by accident. But so I'm really thankful for that, and I'm thankful for. And I want to try much harder to like engage and jump into that, because I'm just sitting there going like, I'm not going to get that opportunity again. And I was thinking about the old couples, where you see old couples that talk about Pearl Harbor. And I remember hearing my father and other people. Actually, I don't remember if it was, no, it wasn't my father, but it was. I remember hearing people talk about Pearl Harbor and that start to tear up. And I was just like, why, dude? It was the past. Get over it. And then, of course, 9/11. And now I'm the guy who tears up over it. And people who had been through traumatic experiences, but they did it together and they came out stronger. And they say, yeah, we remembered why we were in love with each other. It's like, you needed that to remember. Not that they needed it, but it did. There was a reason they were together in the first place, and sometimes you can get too comfortable too. We also forget. I'm going to spin the other side to what Vox just said. For most of human history, we were out there having to hunt for our food, and it was a struggle, and we weren't meant to lead a completely sedentary lifestyle behind a keyboard all day. And we are actually designed to have some level of stress. It's not just that we can cope with stress. We're designed to have some level of stress. So human beings get neurotic if we have everything handed to us on a silver platter all day long and everything's perfect. We're not designed for that. We're not designed to be in a cubicle all day. We're not designed. And it's like all of a sudden we have to deal with problems. And in many cases, we're fucking failing like crazy. But there are communities that are coming together and where it's working. And there are families that are coming together and it's working. And it's making them stronger because they can say, we can do this. And we can become stronger and we can come up with strategies together. And my suspicion is by the time we're done, you look back on it and you say, yeah, we did that. We did that, you and I together. And as much as it may seem otherwise, there's not a lot of people who could in the way that we did. And, high five, way to go. Go team. And it's just like, and I remember seeing the 90-year-old couples that had that. And I'm just sitting there going like, okay, yeah, whatever. And now I'm like, yeah, I'd be proud to be that. So there's that. There's the fact that I think there's going to be much more people who are sick and can't go into work can now telecommute. So all of a sudden, a huge section of disenfranchised society, it's going to be okay, I think, to telecommute. And I think it's going to be much more open to accepting different ways of communicating with people, and it's going to become much more ubiquitous. I think there's going to be a lot of benefits in that area, and I hope that's long lasting. I think that's going to be good.
To round out that, this theme of the, one of the goods is teleconferencing, or not teleconferencing, video conferencing for medicine, video conferencing for counseling. I also think that it's for education, right? And for work as well, but also for education. As somebody I'm going to be teaching 2 courses next semester online. I kind of dig having the option to teach online. And I also dig the fact that schools now have an infrastructure for providing online education that they didn't have before. And I think that that's going to kind of change things. It's going to change the way that people view what going to college means. Does it mean going to college, or does it mean, taking classes at home? What colleges is it going to be on a tier system, right? Are classes at Harvard going to be as easy to access as, classes from your local community college or whatever? And that's also going to call into question, so what's the difference, right? Intro to Psych class that I teach over at Rutgers Camden, or the Intro to Psych class at, New Brunswick Rutgers, or even Harvard or NYU, right? So it's going to call into question, like, okay, so what is this merit system that we're using for academics to teach? You know what I mean? Anyway, so I think that is going to open up different doors. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm admittedly optimistic and excited about that.
All right. Well, and I think that's a good place to end it. So I want to say a couple of quick things. If you've gotten this far in the show, I think that means you probably enjoyed the stream and you liked it. So if you did, a great way to support us, like and subscribe. We also have a Patreon. We have a Discord. Oh, Vox, was there something you wanted to say?
Well, so before we end, I'd just like to give another election update. Right?
Oh, please.
And I'm going to preface this with the views and opinions of Vox do not reflect the views and opinions of In Time, specifically the host Nick Soutter, who is generally speaking more passive in the way that he approaches these situations. But Vox is not. So 67%, with 67% of the vote reporting in Georgia, which means for those people that are keeping score, 33% remain. And based on the tracking, I am willing to say that the 2020 Senate will start off with a Democratic majority, with Ralph Warnock and John Ossoff both now leading by at least 1 percentage point in the race, and the majority of votes remaining counting in Democratic strongholds. Ralph Warnock is leading by 1.5 percentage points, and John Ossoff is leading by 1% statistically. The majority of votes remaining are in Democratic strongholds. Democrats have been outperforming every single major metric since the 2020 November election. And every single county that has closed has shown Democrats leading with higher numbers than they did in the Biden election, and Republicans faring worse. So, while In Time will not make a declaration on this election until overtime, I am willing to say that I believe currently, unless something drastic happens, that Georgia will send 2 Democratic senators to the U.S. Senate with Joe Biden, thus removing the devil himself, Mitch McConnell, from power.
And to be fair, just so everyone knows, and if you're new to this show, Vox has made a number of predictions, and especially the one that really, Bowdy, the one that I really like was when Vox said, okay, here's how what was it? That went to the Supreme Court, and it was Thomas and who was it who dissented on it? But just because they wanted to, the Texas
Alito
thing. Texas didn't have standing, and I'm sitting there going, it's going to be unanimous. They're going to throw it out. And I've studied this shit for a while, so it's like it's going to be unanimous. And Vox is like, nope, these 2, they're going to dissent. And I was just like, okay, I'm not going to contradict Vox on it. And she knows better than I do, and I admitted then she knows the shit more than I do. But come on, Vox, really? I was like, so I'm just like, I'm gonna stay out of it, but Vox knows her shit, so fine, okay. And then it happens. I was like, holy shit! So Vox has made a number of calls on this show. She, to the best of my recollection, hasn't gotten one right, and I will add one other little confession, which is, as soon as we're done with this, we're going to drop a link to the Discord. Anyone who wants to go join the Discord, go do that. I'm going to spend a little time with my family. I'm going to call up a few friends, and they're going to be asking me, hey, what's going to go on with that Senate race? I'm going to say, oh, it's over. It's called the Dems got it. Dems got it, man. Are you sure, Nick? Oh, Jesus, fuck. Yeah, I looked at the numbers. Of course I'm sure. So that's entirely based on, I don't know shit. If Vox says it, that's what I'm going to be saying behind the scenes. But officially, in time, we ain't ready.
We're putting the news on right now. So
all right.
That's what I'm going to do.
I have the same attitude that I had when we ended the show in November.
Yes,
I believe that we have the reason to be tentatively optimistic. And I think that there's good reason looking at the numbers that I'm looking at. I'm looking at numbers across 19 different places. My cell phone's just a wash of windows. That there is reason to be tentatively optimistic that Joe Biden will have 50 Democratic senators sworn in on January 20th.
I almost don't even want to. I don't even want to hope. Either you guys gonna be on the Discord. I won't be able to make it. I'm gonna spend a little time with my
I will be there in about 10 minutes.
I will likely not.
If,
all right.
Yeah, so I will lead the charge for a little bit. I will be there in roughly 10 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and pop off of here as well and see you there in about 10. Like and subscribe, by the way. Nick does a lot of work for this, right? You cheeky bastards.
Please. Thank you all very much. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you for overtime, where we'll be discussing the results and a number of other things on Thursday. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Maute, for joining us, and we will see you all on Thursday. Have a good one.